Beyond the Pelvis is hosted by Dr. Kenael a pelvic floor PT and intuitive healer, and Laura Haraka, a somatic practitioner and breathwork facilitator. Each week, we explore alternative and holistic approaches to healing chronic pelvic pain and other painful or chronic conditions. Join us and other experts in mind, body, and spiritual healing as we discuss a wealth of modalities ranging from ancient practices to modern therapies that challenge the conventional Western model of treatment. Let's get right to it. Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Pelvis, and Laura and I are here excited to talk about some things. We were just having a conversation, and we felt that we should best record this one because it will be useful for people. It is February. Happy February. I have a love-hate relationship with February because one, it's my birthday. I love it. And it's also like the month of love, right? There's that, but it's also the dead of winter, at least where I live. So that's what I mostly hate about it. But another thing I enjoy is it's Black History Month, and being as melanated as I am, I do enjoy Black History Month because it's kind of the one time where we can sort of put all the stuff out there and, we're more likely to get support and people are more likely to listen to us. Unfortunately, this is when people are like, let's listen to all the Black voices. It should happen pretty much year round and all the time, but I noticed around Black History Month is when people are at least more open to that. But hopefully they open and stay open. And then my children get to learn about some Black history as well, and maybe even share things that I didn't know. But I did want to talk about the fact that healthcare in America is different based on your skin color. And there are a lot of people who would deny that, but it is a fact. You can go on the CDC website right now, today in 2024, and research and find articles about the disparities in healthcare based on racial factors. Some people don't agree with it, or they don't want to have the conversation. They don't want to hear the conversation. But I think it's important to at least think about or just be aware that these things exist. The fact that someone can walk into a doctor's office and complain about pain and be written a prescription for a pain medication and go home and they take their pain medication and they don't think anything of it. Whereas someone else, because they look differently, can go into that same doctor or a different doctor, complain about pain, and not be given any options because the bias is that they're seeking drugs, which is a bias, right? Because the belief is that, unfortunately, and it's still sort of in or taught in medical schools. I didn't go to medical school, but I know people who have been to medical school who still today will share like, wow, we were taught this and it's not true. Even when I was in PT school, there were things where I heard, not that my professors were saying these, but these were beliefs. These were beliefs that were taught. One of them was that Black people don't feel as much pain. And that came about during the times of slavery. And that's why Black people were experimented on, because there was a belief that they just don't feel as much pain as other people. And that was a belief that still exists in the medical community. There's also the belief that Black people have thicker skins. I don't know why that would even be a consideration or a thought, but it is that Black people have thicker skins. Our skins are exactly the same. It's not thicker. It just happens to be darker, and darker is not the same as thicker. And then there's the belief that we have a higher tolerance to pain, which again is not accurate. So if these things are implicitly taught, maybe not outright Black people have thicker skin, but it may be implicitly taught, right? There are ways where we are influenced without us even understanding. And that's the whole like subconscious thing, right? That's why certain commercials and things, messaging will get to our subconscious level. And that's what implicit biases do. They sort of get built into our subconscious thinking. So you may think, I'm not racist, I'm not biased, but implicitly you are displaying prejudice and biases and racism because it's sort of built into the structure of America. America would not be America without Black and brown bodies. We live in New Jersey, where the Lenape lived, and they're no longer here. They have a small population here and there in New Jersey, but I lived here for years without knowing that that was a thing. And it's everywhere in America. And then there's also the people who built, physically and economically built the country. It was built off of slavery. So we can't deny the fact that that's just the history of America. So Black history, it's not just Black history, it's American history because that's America. America would not be America if the natives weren't slaughtered and then there was space for white people all of a sudden. America would not be America if it weren't the exploitation and labor, forced labor of enslaved Africans. Just a reality. It's a pretty shitty reality, but it is reality. It is American history.
That was really well said, number one. I have to say that I am definitely, I'm going to use this word, ignorant, because I do not face the same challenges that you have faced and your race has faced. No one can see my face right now, but I am actually in shock what you're telling me right now, that these beliefs that a Black person wouldn't feel as much pain or they have a higher pain tolerance. I'm ignorant to the fact that that even exists. And it's really sad that people in today's society still believe those things.
And it's not on purpose all the time. Sometimes it isn't on purpose. Sometimes it's, as you mentioned, it's just ignorance, right? You don't know what you don't know. And because it's not your lived experience, you wouldn't think of that because it's not your lived experience. We assume our lived experience is everyone else's lived experience. That's human nature. And it's when you hear of something, you're like, oh, whoa, that didn't even occur to me, which I think is one of the problems why it still persists in America, is because it's not everyone's lived experience, but I think it's also purposely kept from other people knowing. Because people would get angry and people would want to change something, be like, well, that's not fair. And something would get done. But it's just been a part of the system for so long.
So it's interesting. I started coaching in 2019 and I see clients online. I also see clients coming to my breathwork workshops. And I remember about a year and a half ago, I went into my therapist's office and I said to her, Caitlin, why do I not have any Black women or men coming to see me for pain? I said, Black women and men have pelvises. They must have pain like everybody else. And I do not, to this day, have one Black woman or man client.
It comes down to a few different things, right? There's safety. Do I feel safe going to this white person to talk about my pain, which has been dismissed for so long? And then feeling safe in healing with a white-bodied person. We all, as humans, feel more connected with people who are more like us. That's why, if you left the country as an American, you leave the country and you go to another country and you see another American, you almost instantly connect. Oh, wow, you're from America. Where are you from? I'm from New Jersey. You always go on a cruise, you find someone who lives in your state, you almost always connect because you're always looking for people who are like you because there's that connection there. So I think when it comes to healing from pain, I would assume they would feel more comfortable with someone who looked like them because for so long they have been ignored by so many others. And keep it real, most of the doctors are probably white or non-black, I should say. At least they're not black, right? And they would feel safer with someone who looks more like them.
And now that you say it, I can tell you after going to, I can say tons. I don't even know a number of medical professionals when I first developed chronic pelvic pain. I do not think one of the doctors that I saw was Black.
And that doesn't surprise me. That does not surprise me. There are, I mean, they exist, right? It's where are they? Where are they? Right? It's just about finding them. But they do exist. Maybe they're in communities where there are more people who look like that so that they can meet the needs of the people who look like them. I'm a Black person, obviously. I'm a melanated immigrant. I am an immigrant. And I feel more connected or would feel more connected with someone who looks like me. So when I am looking for a doctor, I'm one looking for a Black person. And if I find out they're Jamaican, ooh, even better. An immigrant Black doctor, sign me up. Like, here's my card. We just feel safer and we don't have to explain certain things. I feel like that's especially the case when it comes to being an immigrant, where I'm from Jamaica, so our food is different, our culture is different. So having to go to a doctor and they're asking about food or something like that, you don't have to explain. I don't have to explain what my food is. They just know if I mention ackee and saltfish, they're like, oh yeah, they know what that is. People are like, what is that? You know, they don't know. There's that you don't have to explain as much and they just already understand. And then we're not gonna try to say, oh, that's probably not good for you. You should eat something that I'm more comfortable with. I mean, there's a lot of different things. I just picked one scenario.
I also think that it's the same thing with pelvic pain. I have clients find me and they come to me as opposed to another coach who might be really great and just as good, who I always usually know or say, speak highly of. However, because I have pelvic pain or had pelvic pain, then they feel like I can understand what they're going through more. So there's that familiarity
Mm.
with and an understanding of their struggle.
Right. They can relate. You can relate to them. Right. So we do it on so many different levels. We just might not think of it. Now, think of how challenging it is for someone dealing with chronic pelvic pain. How many doctors you had to go to, how many times you were dismissed. Now, imagine if you were already doing that in a medical system that already dismisses you, that
I can't
already
imagine.
dismisses, right, that already dismisses your pain. If it took 3 years for you to get help, it would have taken longer than that for someone in a melanated body to get help because even more dismissal, even more gaslighting, even more all the things. And then they would, one, have to deal with it on their own, just deal with the pain and push through anyway, or find alternative methods on their own.
It's unfortunate that that is the actual case. But let's talk about some alternative methods that people can find out there and do for themselves.
I think this would be valuable for anybody, any person. It's just information one, we should all know. We should all know about our bodies. We should all know these techniques, these rituals that don't cost money, don't take a lot of time. But I do think a mindset change is appropriate, right? Because we all want quick fixes. We all want to go back to regular life, whatever that means for us. But we fail to realize that regular life for many of us is toxic. And the regular life is what caused a lot of the issues in the first place. So these things are free. These things are easy. And actually saw something just this week that a lot of the healing practices and techniques do come from lineages from Black and Brown people. And at the time when we weren't allowed to be in some of these spaces, like we weren't allowed to be doctors, we weren't allowed to be nurses or social workers or whatever it was, this was just part of our regular culture that was brought from the African continent. Something as simple as breath work that has been shown to come from a lot of nations, a lot of cultures in Asia, even made its way to Africa, right? Or yoga, again, from Asia, made its way to Africa. Certain plant medicines, they're found all over the world.
So, breath work, like you mentioned, is one of the easiest and accessible modalities that you can do and give yourself, because the breath is something that happens automatically, right? We don't wake up in the morning and there's a note that says, remember to breathe. We start breathing automatically,
We
but
are
it's
breathing automatically,
Mhm.
just
we
always.
breathe. We breathe automatically from the time we're born till the time we die. It's one of the things we can also control to help regulate our nervous system, because we want to stay in a more calm and relaxed state of our nervous system, which is our parasympathetic nervous system, more often than most. Now, we also want, so it's not to dismiss our sympathetic nervous system. We need our sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight, flight, our ready, set, go. We don't want to step foot into traffic and be like, oh, wow, a car's coming, and be all relaxed. We want to jump back out of the street. So we need both parts of our nervous system. But I really think breath work is one way where we can stay in our parasympathetic nervous system more than our sympathetic nervous system. And there's such easy, quick tools to learn to regulate your nervous system from fight or flight into rest and digest.
Yeah. And what I want to point out is that, yes, breathing is something we have been doing since day one, right? As soon as we're born, we start it. And it's one of the last things that we do before we go. And it happens, what, 20,000 roughly on average, 20,000 times per day. You're taking a breath, right? And it's automatic. So when people hear breath work, they think, well, why do I need to be taught how to breathe? I already do it. It is automatic. I remember teaching patients how to breathe. And sometimes they would get offended. I already know how to breathe. Why are you teaching me this? I'm paying you to teach me how to breathe. Yes, because it is the foundation for everything that we do going forward if you want to be healthy as far as pelvic health goes, or just healthy in general, as far as nervous system goes. But it's not your everyday subconscious, I don't have to think about it, automatic breathing that we're talking about when we say breath work. We're talking about conscious control of your breath. By changing that, you can change your nervous system.
And the first thing that people really need to start doing is ask yourself right now, am I a mouth breather or am I a nose breather? This is one small little thing you can do to actually affect your nervous system today. So just make a note of when you're breathing out of your mouth and try to shift to breathing out of your nose, because when we breathe out of our nose, it filters and humidifies the air, it removes germs and bacteria, it helps you sleep better. But most importantly, it helps activate your parasympathetic nervous system, your
Correct.
calm, your rest, and digest. And it's funny, people that really know me, my friends, I have mouth tape that I use at night for sleeping. And they start giggling when they hear me say that because they say, how can you put tape over your mouth? You can't stop talking. But when you learn what I know about breath work and how important and it is and what it affects in your body, you can't go back and unlearn it. And now I've made over the last year a conscious effort to breathe through my nose. And I will tell you, I am at least 50% calmer than I ever was.
Hmm. I read the book a couple years ago, Breath, the Breath or Breathe. Now I can't remember.
I think it's Breathe by James Nestor.
Breathe by James Nestor. And I became very aware, hyper aware of my mouth breathing versus nose breathing. I was never much of a mouth breather to begin with, and I already knew the benefits of nasal breathing already, but I just became extra, extra aware. I know I don't sleep with my mouth open either. My mouth is closed. So I'm generally a nose or nasal breather anyway. I just became more hyper aware for myself and also for other people, noticing like, wow, you really are a mouth breather. And I noticed it before in some people who I'm around a lot of time where I just want to be like, can you just close your mouth and breathe through your nose? Like you'll feel much better. Mouth breathing is a signal to your brain that something's wrong, and it's gonna switch into that sympathetic nervous system. So when you close your mouth and breathe through your nose, now you're signaling to your brain and nervous system, I am safe. And that will trigger your parasympathetic nervous system. So that's a really easy change without knowing what kind of breath work to do, how to do it. Start by noticing, are you breathing through your mouth? Are you breathing through your nose? Now, some people feel like they're suffocating if they breathe through their nose only. That's just going to take some getting used to. You're just going to have to get used to that, but start slowly, or just even noticing or just being aware of it. But for people like that, I recommend if you really struggle or have a hard time, breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth just to feel a little bit safer until you can get used to breathing in and out of your nose when possible. Keep in
Because
mind, the more you talk, the more you breathing in and out of your mouth.
whenever I am listening to someone, I am extremely aware of my breath. And another little tip that you can do, besides making this a habit now, because we can make anything in our life a habit with practice and awareness and persistence. But sometimes people are breathing too shallow as well into their chest. And a quick and easy thing you can do is just taking one hand and putting it on your diaphragm. And I like to, for my pelvic clients, have them put a second hand down low on their pelvic diaphragm. And a lot of people don't even know or didn't know there was or there is a pelvic diaphragm, but there is. And I take my pinky finger and I line it up with my pubic bone. And so many of us are breathing shallow and through our chest. But if you can put your hands on your diaphragm and your pelvic diaphragm, you can actually start directing the air down into your hands when we focus on it. So it's just an easy way to start getting your breath and directing it down into your belly. And there is a fallacy. We don't always have to take a deep breath. One of the books that I read was The Oxygen Advantage, which is a great book. And his slogan basically is breathe light to breathe right. So we can breathe gently and lightly and still oxygenate our blood and really get a good activation of our parasympathetic nervous system.
Deep breath doesn't mean really big, right? It could be light and deep. Deep refers to how much your diaphragm is moving, basically. That's what people mean by deep breath is get it way down there. And most people, because I teach this every day to everyone, will take a really big, deep breath. And it's loud and there's resistance. I'm like, it can be light and deep. Try it out. They look at me like, what? Light? Try it. See how it works. Oh, that feels a whole lot different. I hope everyone listening is like focusing on their breath right now and trying all of this out. Try to take a deep breath, slow breath, and keep it quiet and light. It's possible. And you do that for a number of times. Do it for 2 minutes. Instant calm. Your body can't help it. It's just instant calm. I think we've said this before, but the breath is the only access we have to influencing our nervous system.
And one of the things I found out, you said 2 minutes, right? That's not a long time. So even if you did 2 minutes 3 times a day, that's great. You're worth 6 minutes a day, I think. But one thing I realized or found out through a study is our brain is actually altered after only 30 to 45 seconds of breathing.
I believe it. And actually, if you slow down those breaths, you're taking maybe 8 at the most. So that's less than 20 breaths. Slow, intentional, deep nasal breaths, 20, less than 20. But even
So
before that, 10 breaths.
so even if 2 minutes feels long to you, try even 1 minute 3 times a day and just notice your body before you take the breaths and after you take the breaths. I promise you it will be worth it.
Absolutely. Breath is definitely my number one thing. And it's free. We do this every day, all the time. Why not make it count? Make it useful. And not saying that just doing this is going to take away your pelvic pain or any chronic pain, right? But it might help to alleviate that. It helps to put you in the parasympathetic nervous system, which does modulate pain. And from there, wow, I'm feeling much better. Now you can go off and do all the other free things like going to take a walk. 30 minutes, 3 times a week can be helpful too. That's free, taking a walk, as long as it's safe to do so and it's not too cold or anything like that. Go take a walk or turn on some music and just dance and move your body and let it do whatever it wants to do. Again, that's free.
There are so many free options out there that you can do. And I want to just go back to breath work for one more time because there are so many different types of breath work out there. So if you're doing a certain type of breathing, ocean breath or box breathing, whatever that may be, you may do that and it's not the right breath for you. There are different types of breath works out there that might be right for one person and not be right for you. So give each type of breath work a try and see what works best for your nervous system and what your body likes.
Yeah, that's a good point. And even the other things that I just mentioned, the dancing, the going for a walk, maybe that's not you. Maybe you are more of a runner and not much of a walker, or maybe you're more of a walker, not much of a runner, or maybe you don't like dancing, but you like qigong or yoga or some sort of intuitive dance, or maybe you want to do a structure, teach me how to dance versus I'm just going to move my body in ways that feels good to me. There's so many options. And even, yes, I brought up yoga and qigong and a structure. Someone teaches me how to dance. Even that you can find on YouTube. It doesn't have to be paid for. You don't have to pay for the service. We have so much access to a lot of different things. And again, none of these are meant to, we're not sharing these as these are going to cure you or these are going to fix you, but these are tools that you can add that can only help. When I see patients or clients that have chronic pelvic conditions, one of the things I want to know is, what does your daily routine look like? What does your self-care practices look like? Because if I know they already have these things built in, there's not much for me to do. But if they don't have it built in, then there's a lot more that I need to do, because now I have to teach them. Now we have to find the techniques that work and teach them the techniques. And there's just a lot more to do versus someone who, oh, I already practice yoga on a daily basis. Do you love it? Yes. Great. Then we're going to keep doing that. And maybe we add on some other things that are related or similar enough, but it's just less work for me and less work for them as well, because they already have these self-care practices built in. And what I mentioned before, it takes a mindset change in order to be healthy. Is we think when we have a chronic condition, okay, I do these things and then I feel better and then I go back to regular life. But in reality, these things that you're doing need to become a part of your regular life.
It's basically what I tell my clients is a maintenance plan. I cannot go back to the life I had before my pain came. I continue to do my breath work. I continue to take walks. I continue to implement self care. And all these self care activities are great. And there's one thing I just wanted to make mention of that is also free, or it can be free. And what all chronic pain people, or not even pain people, should put in their life: joy. Our brain reacts to joy. And there is scientific studies that show that our amygdala and our pain signals are not as active when we experience joy in our life. Now, that doesn't mean you have to go to a movie or you have to go to a painting class. It could be something simple as just calling a good friend and laughing on the phone. And it can totally change the trajectory of your day.
If nobody's available, go put on a comedy show. Those are free on TV or on YouTube or something.
It was actually part of my self care routine that on Friday nights I would listen to Sebastian Maniscalco, where I would put him on and I would just laugh. During those times, I could see my pain lessening and sometimes disappearing.
Yeah, when I was in a bad, not wasn't a bad mood, but anytime I was in just like a rut and I'm like, I need to get juices flowing or move the energy in my body, and I just couldn't do that physically, I would actually turn on and listen in my headphones while I was cooking or doing something, because the life of a mother is busy. But when I was doing something, I would take advantage of that time and listen to Joe Coy. And I hope I am introducing everyone to Joe Coy, because I don't know, he is my favorite.
I'm going to have to listen. I don't even know who he is, actually.
You're gonna love it.
But I'm really glad you brought up being busy as a mom. Whether you're a mom or you're busy with work or whatever it is, some of the breath work that I teach, and it's not just that I teach, that's out there for you. You can do it while you're giving your son or daughter a bath. You can do it while you're doing dishes or laundry. You don't have to have a formal practice where you set time aside. You can do it anytime, anywhere, and nobody even needs to know you're doing it.
I also do love and encourage people to get the kids involved if that's the problem. If you can't find time because caretaking, then you get other people involved. You put on music and say, we're having a dance party for 3 songs. Let's pick 3 songs together and dance it out together. They don't have to know the reason for doing that. If you can't find time to go through a whole yoga practice, maybe you pop into a standing pose and take 10 slow, deep breaths. If you have time, do another standing pose, 10 slow, deep breaths. There's time if we want to find it to do these things. It's totally possible. If you're working remotely, take a call while you're going for a walk. It doesn't have to be a strenuous walk where now you can't talk because you're out of breath. It could be a slower walk, but you're moving your body and you're on your call. Or if you're just listening, take that call on a faster pace walk. There's just so many options. We just have to be creative. But I think what happens is when we get into this pain state, you lose the opportunity for being creative because the brain just doesn't have time. When you're in fight or flight, the brain does not have time for creativity and for thinking of these things outside of the box. But hopefully, hearing this, sometimes hearing it is enough to spark something where you're almost like told what to do because your brain can't come up with these things on its own. It's like, oh, yeah, I did not think of going for a walk and listening to my call. Now I'm going to try that. And maybe you just start there. And then before you know it, you think of other things on your own that you can try to do. And those things start to help. It just takes one thing, just take a step to doing something different.
That's a great point that you made, because I think it's important for clients when they're having a low pain day to writing down a toolkit. So they have like basically a toolbox to write down the things that they can do that help them so they don't have to think about it.
Exactly. It's as simple as that. And if you can't even find the time to do that, I guarantee you someone has done it and put it up on the internet. Go find it.
So I really hope today that we gave you a few tools that you can do that don't cost money, that don't cost a lot of time, that you can start integrating into your daily life.
Thank you. This was a great conversation. Happy Black History Month. Let's be grateful for what we have. And that's it.
Take care.
If you'd like to leave us a message or ask a question, please check the show notes with the link so you can reach us directly, or email us at beyondthepelvis@gmail.com.